This is my 30 flight days commercial fixed-wing license to commercial helicopter license conversion. I'm trying to do it in just 30 days if possible. Now, was it tough trying to fly a helicopter? To say the least, yes it was. I arrived at the flight school and did my ground school with the instructor, and he explained that we would do climbs, descents, acceleration and deceleration, climbing turns and descending turns, upper air auto rotations.
That means now we did the flare, we will let the nose come back to where it was.
Hovering and hover taxi, and that's what we did. After 1 hour of flight, my brain was completely dead, but it was challenging and a lot of fun. And hovering was really hard to coordinate between using the cyclic, collective, and anti-torque pedals. We hovered, taxied back, debriefed, and now we are off to the next day where I will do 2 back-to-back flights. Today was very challenging since it was only my second and third lesson. In the first flight, we went through more upper air auto rotations, hover work, and an introduction to takeoffs and landings. I wanted to give up on the hover work today because it was super windy and I didn't think I would get it, but fortunately my flight instructor was really patient with me. We kept trying again and again, but then I needed a bit of a rest to let it all sink in. We came back and landed for around 2 hours. After that, we went back out for more, yes, you guessed it, more hover work. But instead we went out to the fields to practice and something happened. I finally began to get it. Well, at least to the best of my ability. We did about 6 takeoffs and landings in the field, hover taxied around and went back to the airport. Fortunately, the wind had died down more this time, so we tried again doing hover work at the airport. It was still a little rough around the edges, but I was starting to feel a lot better. After that, we went back to the hangar for another debrief. In the end, I was feeling super happy about how the day went, and I'm definitely looking forward to my next flight tomorrow. Today we went back through more upper air auto rotations. Slowly my flight instructor is giving me more and more control as he begins to trust me, which is super awesome. So thanks Anish for slowly putting your life in my hands. Next I practiced more takeoffs and landings, and today my flight instructor fully allowed me to land the helicopter and take off all by myself. I definitely was a little shaky and they were a bit rough, but as per his words, they were safe. I remember hearing that same phrase when I started my fixed wing license too. I guess that's how we all start. Near the end of the lesson, we moved on to takeoff and landing transitions, and then he let me hover taxi all the way back to the fuel pumps. But on the way back, we did something really cool. He showed me hover and hover taxi engine failure emergency landings. This really showed me how safe a helicopter can be if a pilot is properly trained. It was a great experience and it shows me a glimpse of what I can look forward to learning in this course. Another great flight and another debrief was done. Day 4 of doing my 30-day helicopter license conversion challenge. A week did go by without me flying since a helicopter was down for maintenance and we had a severe snowstorm, so we aren't going to count that time. I was super stoked to fly today since the weather finally began to clear out. I currently have 5.5 hours total time now, and all I've been able to accomplish was the basics such as straight level flight, climbs, descents, basic hover, landing and taking off, going in the circuit, etc. Now the goal of the flight school at this time is to make me safe enough to be able to do all of this by myself and fly the helicopter solo. So guess what we did today? All of the same things, but it was awesome because I feel like I was slowly gaining more and more control of the helicopter and things were beginning to make more sense. It was a little easier to land and take off, and a little easier to hover. Now I also thought it was very interesting flying at the airport after it just snowed because it was a bit hard to see the runway. But besides that, it was absolutely beautiful out. Anyways, we came back after 1.2 hours and finished our flight. I'm so happy to be back in the skies. Day 4 is done, and I will see you in the next one. Today I got to do 2 flights totaling 2.6 hours. My total time now is 9.1 hours. The weather wasn't looking that great this morning, which meant that we would have to do more hover practice today. We hovered sideways about 100 meters from right to left and then left to right. We hovered around a bag, and we hovered with the tail part of the helicopter staying still and just moving the front of the helicopter. We also did some more hover emergency engine failures. My heart was racing because my flight instructor let me do my first one all by myself. That was extremely nerve-wracking, but was also a fantastic experience. After that, we rested for about half an hour and then we went back out. The weather began to clear out, so we finally got to practice circuits. I really enjoyed doing the transition takeoffs. I can definitely say since I already have my fixed wing license, I didn't have to focus so much on learning how to do the circuits, but more focusing on how to fly the helicopter. We did 4 circuits, which meant 4 takeoffs and landings, and we practiced 1 overshoot. At this point, my brain was pretty dead, so we came back and landed and filled up the gas tank for the next day. As I get more control of flying the helicopter, the goal now is to go through emergency procedures over and over again. So we did more auto rotation emergency engine failures. Along with his supervision in the helicopter, he wanted me to be able to do the entry, descent, and flare all by myself, but that's a lot to take in. So we broke it up to help train my brain from thinking about it mechanically to transition into doing it through muscle memory. We went out to the fields and practiced the entry and descent not once, but close to 10 times. We would come down and do an overshoot and climb back up and do it all over again. After I got used to the entry and descent, we came back and rested for about 2 hours. Then we went back out, but this time we went out to do the flare part of the auto rotations. We practiced coming in at 65 knots, and then he showed me how coming in at 75 knots in some unique situations could possibly give us a couple of hundred extra feet to glide. I also like doing this at the airport because it allowed me to practice a lot of takeoffs and circuit work. After doing this about 10 more times, we came back, landed, and now I have another 2.6 hours of flight time under my belt. I have around 15 hours total time now, and basically every day I'm just working on my emergency procedures. We practiced around 15 to 20 auto rotation engine emergency failures. It is surprising how much faster we glide down in a helicopter than when I'm in a fixed wing aircraft. We also practice governor failure emergencies, which basically means I need to control the engine and rotor RPMs by raising the collective and rolling the throttle at the same time. This was very difficult at the beginning, but it got easier as I got used to it and learned to do smaller adjustments on the collective, which meant I didn't have to roll the throttle as much. Now, a pilot has to realize when doing their training, a flight instructor could just send you solo at maybe 10 hours if you are doing really well, and you might just do fine. But at that point, you probably won't have the emergency procedures programmed into your muscle memory yet. So if something did happen, it could put you into a very serious situation. This is why we're going to spend another 3 to 5 hours doing these emergency procedures. Thanks to both my instructors for being so patient with me and helping me improve my flying skills. Day 9 of my helicopter license conversion. I was feeling a little frustrated yesterday because it was a very challenging day for me and my flight skills were not where I wanted them to be. But guess what? Today is a new day. I went out for a flight with my instructor and we practiced forced approaches. Basically, we entered an auto rotation, then we picked a spot to land. We did a practice mayday call, and then we came down and did a final flare. We did about 6 or 7 of them. They actually went pretty good, which means my day was off to a good start. After that, we came back for a break. In the afternoon, we got to do a couple of new exercises, such as taking off by climbing up vertically, roughly 50 to 100 feet, and then going into transitional lift. We also did a low manifold pressure takeoff and just used ground effect to help build our speed. This is very cool, but also very weird at the same time, since it feels like you're gonna go right into the ground. And finally, we finished off with, you guessed it, more auto rotations. The instructors said they were really happy with my work today and said that weather dependent, I would be good to fly solo this weekend. I can't believe it, 9 flight days and roughly 18 hours of flight time later, and I'm actually gonna be able to have the opportunity to fly a helicopter solo. It's day 10 of my helicopter license conversion, and I finally get to do my first solo. My flight instructor and I first did a couple of circuits together to make sure that I was all good for the day. So we came back, he got out of the helicopter, and now it was my time to fly the R-22 all by myself. My first takeoff was a little rocky due to the instructor not being in there, which changed the center of gravity. But I was off to the runway to do my first 2 circuits. I did a 360 check and then took off. 1 circuit done, and now I was on my second one, just about to turn final, lining myself up nicely for my landing.
This is my very first solo flying a helicopter, and it is absolutely amazing. Okotoks traffic, Romeo India Tango, turning final for 3-4. Going to do a touchdown and then hover taxi back over to
I slowly crouched my way in, trying to be as smooth as I could on the controls. I went into a hover and then landed on the runway. I slowly hover taxied back in for my final landing. Today was a great day, one that I will never forget, my first solo in a helicopter. I just want to say a big thanks to everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Day 11 of my helicopter license conversion. Yesterday I did my first solo and 2 circuits all by myself, which felt amazing. But today we basically had to rinse and repeat over and over again until I started to feel more comfortable flying solo. So once again, my flight instructor and I flew for 2 circuits, and then we came back. He got out of the helicopter, and then I got to fly my first hour all by myself. So I ended up taking off, slowly hover taxiing to the hold short line, and flying 5 circuits, which of course included 5 takeoffs and 5 full landings. I still felt a little uneasy on the first circuit, but by the time I was done the 5 circuits, I felt more and more relaxed in the helicopter. But as that hour came to a close, I didn't want to come back. Instead, I just wanted to keep flying and trying to improve my flight skills. But realistically, I knew at this point my brain needed a rest for today so that I could digest everything I just did. So as you can see, we just rinsed and repeated everything today. But tomorrow I get to do something very cool and exciting. I get to leave the airport and do an intro to flying to confined areas. Today was going to be a very special day because I was going to get to do an intro to landing into confined areas. In the morning, I did an hour-and-a-half flight to do more hover practice and do more takeoffs and landings first. But after that, I came back for 2 hours, did a very long brief on confines, and then we were off. We did a high reconnaissance passover at about 1,000 feet above the area we wanted to land and did our suitability check, size, wind, and power check, and then we made a decision that it was worth looking at a little closer. So we descended about 500 feet. We looked at the size of the area, the shape, surface, slope, and surroundings, where the sun was coming from and where the shade was. And then we looked into the safety check or the security check to make sure that there was a way out if we needed to abort the landing. After doing all of that, the moment of truth. We came in for a nice approach and landed, and we made it to our destination. All that planning and reconnaissance paid off, and now we are in one of the coolest places I have yet been in a helicopter. This was an amazing day and really showed me what a helicopter can do. I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings, and I'll see you in the next one. Day 13 of my helicopter license conversion. Today I managed to squeeze in 3 flights. On the first flight, we went out and practiced steep turns where we would slow down the helicopter from 70 knots to 60 knots and then turn between a 30 to 45 degree angle to the left or to the right and then go a full 180 degrees around and come out of it. After doing this about 7 or 8 times, it definitely got a lot easier. We practiced more forced approaches and emergency engine failures as well. On the second flight, we did the same thing, but then I got to do an introduction to landing on slopes, which was very cool. We practiced landing with the right skid higher up on the slope, and then we practiced doing it with the left skid higher up on the slope. I can tell that this will take me a little while to get used to landing on slopes, but it was awesome to see what the helicopter could really do. Now after doing all of that, I got to go back out for a third flight to practice more takeoffs and landings and now practice the steep turns solo. I now have close to 26 hours of flight time over the last 2 weeks, and I can honestly say this has been so much fun and I can't wait to go flying again tomorrow. Day 14 and 15 of my helicopter license conversion. I'm coming up to the 30-hour mark of my license conversion, so I have to start doing my 5 hours of instrument time. So in order to do instrument flying in a helicopter, you have to do what's called under the hood flying. So the instructor gave me these special glasses that only allows me to see the instruments. So we did straight and level flight for a couple minutes. Then we did climbing turns and descending turns, all with the glasses on. I'm not IFR rated, but we practice these things just in case we advertently fly into a cloud. Hopefully that never happens, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Afterwards, I came back and rested for an hour, and then I got to go back out and practice more steep turns, landings, and takeoffs. Each day I feel like I'm getting more and more control of the helicopter. I also got to go out to the confined area all by myself. It was awesome flying out to the countryside, checking out the area, and then coming in for a landing. It has been a lot of learning these past 2 weeks, but I have enjoyed every moment of it. I now had to complete my ground school course, get a recommendation letter, and write my commercial helicopter conversion exam. Today was a long day because we had to do close to a 2-hour brief on navigation. This felt quite a bit different than when I did my airplane license because in the helicopter we fly a lot closer to the ground. After our ground briefing, we went and practiced it once, came back, and then I got to do the short navigation solo. I learned how to track the ground, do my speed checks, revise ETA checks, field checks, etc. All to make sure that if I went to go on a cross country that I would actually reach my destination, do it in the right time, and with enough fuel. After going from Okotoks Airport, I flew my ground track to Vulcan Airport, did a couple of stop and goes, and then I flew in the direction of another airport. I didn't land but flew well above it, and then I ended up practicing a diversion back to Okotoks Airport, which I'd also been given an intro on today. I had to learn a lot today, but it was great because it allowed me to do my first short cross country in a helicopter all by myself. I can feel it, after 16 days of flying, that I'm actually getting closer to becoming a helicopter pilot. Today I squeezed in 4 hours of flying, and it was so much fun because I got to go to a new confined area to practice and improve my flying skills. First though, on the way out, I got to do some instrument flying using the foggles, which are training glasses for instrument flying. Some of you were asking what they look like, so here you go. You can see it only allows you to see the instruments. Then we arrived near the confined area. This confined area was a lot smaller and tighter than the last one I had to fly into. It was definitely a lot more challenging. We practiced coming in and landing, moving around, as well as doing some aborted takeoff procedures. Then we came back to Foothills Helicopter Training Academy, and I got to rest for a little bit. And then I got to go back out for a longer cross country from Okotoks to Chris Holmes Airport, Vulcan Airport, back to the confined area, and then do a diversion back to Okotoks. To be honest, I was a little nervous doing landings in this confined area all by myself, but in the end, everything ended up going well because the winds weren't too strong, and I just took my time and practiced everything my instructor taught me. That puts another amazing day in the books, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for my long cross country. I can't believe it. Today I actually got the opportunity to do my long cross country flight. Doing one long cross country flight is a requirement to get my helicopter license. I need to fly to and land at 3 different airports other than my home airport. So that is what I did. I flew from Okotoks Airport to Drumheller Airport. The airport manager was a super nice guy. He came out and helped me work the fuel system so that I could fill up the helicopter. I filled up there and took a small break. Then I flew from Drumheller to Basona Airport. Then Basona Airport to Vulcan Airport. Then Vulcan Airport back to the Okotoks Airport. airport. In order to complete this requirement, this flight cannot be less than 2 hours from the point of departure. In total, my 178 nautical mile flight took me just over 3 hours. Doing this flight was an absolutely amazing experience. It was a great way to prove to myself that I could actually get my helicopter license and become a helicopter pilot. I now have almost 42 hours of flight time over the last 3 weeks, and I've completed all the exercises that I need to do to get my license. Now I just have to clean up everything and start preparing for the flight test. Day 19 and 20 on my helicopter license conversion. I basically need to clean up everything that I've learned so far so that I will be flight test ready. The first flight, I went out to the confined area near High River, and the second one, I went out to a confined area next to a big river. In order to do your commercial license conversion from a fixed wing license to a helicopter license, you need a total of 60 hours, which includes 37 hours dual instruction flight time and 23 hours of solo time. Right now, I'm at 41.8 hours total time, which includes 28.5 dual hours and 13.3 solo hours. So I still need to get 18.2 hours over the next 10 days of flying the R-22. This should give me enough time to get flight test ready, or at least I hope it will be enough time. The second confined area that I got to go to was amazing, as it had just snowed the day before, so it looked absolutely beautiful out. Flying the R-22 over the last couple of weeks really has changed my perspective of helicopters for the better. It has been challenging, but so much fun at the same time. Auto rotation training in a helicopter and going to confines all in one day. Day 21 of my helicopter license conversion. I started off by going to the confined area that I already did, but it had snowed even more, so it was very interesting landing on all that snow and doing the seating check. That is where I moved the cyclic slightly back and forth, and then I wiggled my feet, and then in stages I put the collective down so that I could sink softly into the snow. It should be done this way so that I can safely and evenly lower the helicopter's weight onto the ground. This area is absolutely beautiful. Now I know personally one area that I need to improve on was doing auto rotations, so guess what we did in the afternoon? Not 1, not 2, not 3, but close to 15 auto rotations. We did straight on auto rotations, we did 180 auto rotations, and we did speed variation auto rotations where I either had to extend the auto rotation or shorten the distance so that I would make my landing spot. After all of these auto rotations were done, I felt a lot better. I still have a lot of work to do, but my instructors are definitely helping me get closer and closer to flight test ready. We are definitely on the final grind of finishing my helicopter license conversion. Day 22 of my helicopter license included this.
I know man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt.
And some of this.
Somewhere new, somewhere I can't find myself. Oh, I feel so alive. As I reach out to.
And some more of this.
I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day, 'cause I found my way.
And by the end, we had done a lot of studying, flying, and more studying. Weather has been crazy lately, but I just completed my helicopter license conversion ground school, and I am now preparing for my written exam. Well, I didn't get to fly today because I'm here at the Transport Canada office at the Calgary International Airport, and I'm about to write my helicopter license conversion test. Now, this test involves 35 questions, and I need to get at least 60% to pass, or at least get 21 of them right. So hopefully I can at least get 21 right, and I will see you in a couple hours to let you know how it went. This is definitely a crazy long walk to try and get here in the Calgary International Airport. I am so lost, and I don't know why the office is here, but anyway, hopefully I find it in time so I don't miss my exam. I just got back from writing my exam, and it's absolutely freezing outside right now. It's negative 22 with a negative 31 degree wind chill. But 2 hours later, and I passed my test with 79.3%. Now, it's not the best mark, but it allows me to move on to my flight test prep. So I will see you in the next one. Well, day 23 of my license conversion included a solo flight to practice my confined area landings. But on day 24, here's where the pressure began. We had to do a pre-flight test. This included a day that lasted from 7:30 a.m. to almost 5:30 p.m. We started off with doing the ground portion of the flight test. We went through all the documents, such as the certificate of airworthiness, certificate of registration, insurance documents, etc. That last one was definitely easy for me since I'm an aviation insurance broker. We then did map planning, looked at the weather, and then I got tested on all the parts of the helicopter. After that, we went to the helicopter and did the entire flight test, from hover emergency failures, navigation, diversions, confined landings, quick deceleration to steep turns, auto rotations, forced approaches, aborted takeoffs, towering and vertical takeoffs, governor failures, etc. It was a long day and I still need to clean up a couple things, but I am definitely getting closer to passing my helicopter license conversion flight test. Flying helicopters is absolutely amazing, but one of the biggest things we need to practice over and over again is all the emergency situations that can happen in a helicopter. So that is what we did on day 25 of my helicopter license conversion. We practiced run-on landings and hover taxi engine failure emergencies. This is where we'd use the right pedal to counteract the left yaw, and then we waited until we were closer to the ground, and then we pulled up on the collective so that we could nicely put the helicopter down. Then we did right stuck pedal, where we smoothly rolled off the throttle to the point that stopped the turn to the right, and then we would land. We then did left stuck pedal, where we slowly brought down the collective and then did a long pull up to stop us from rotating left. We did that over and over again until we landed. And then you guessed it, we did more auto rotations and 180 auto rotations. Overall, it was a great session and is making me feel more and more comfortable that if a situation did come up, I would know what to do so that I could protect my passengers and myself and make it safely back to the ground. Happy flying, everyone, and I will see you in the next one. If you were about to get stuck in a whiteout situation in a helicopter and didn't know how to land properly with great precision, it could mean your life. So that is why we practice no hover takeoffs and no hover landings so that we could safely maneuver in an area that has a lot of snow. This is day 26 of my helicopter license conversion. It had just snowed, which meant the conditions were perfect to practice these types of takeoffs and landings. Basically, we just bunny hopped our way all the way down the runway over and over again. I would take off in 3 stages to get off the ground and out of my own snow cloud as quickly and safely as possible. And then I would try and remain ahead of my own snow cloud and use the runway markers as a reference point to help me promptly and smoothly land the helicopter. Then my flight instructor showed me something really cool. We went to the end of the runway and we imagined that we were on a helipad that was facing a canyon, and due to the so-called conditions that day, required us to take off slowly backwards and then do a 180 turn on the mast to depart out of there. As you can see, it was absolutely beautiful out and was a great day to help me gain more precision with flying the R-22. Day 26 over, and I will see you in the next one. Day 27 and 28 of my helicopter license conversion. These are my final 2 flights before my big flight test. So we went out and continued to clean up everything that I had learned. Weather wasn't the best, so we had to stay at the airport, which I was fine with because what I really needed to work on was my auto rotations, hover taxi emergency engine failures, left stuck pedal and right stuck pedal emergencies, cushion takeoffs, run-on landings, and so on. So that is what we did.
And I won't look back, yeah. I don't care about the bit back home. It's Cincinnati, baby. I just wanna let it go. Nothing matters when we're way out here. Oh,
Overall, I felt like it was a huge success, and I'm finally feeling ready for my commercial helicopter flight test. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Did you know that you only need 60 hours of flight time and pass a 35-question written exam based off of air law and general knowledge to convert a commercial fixed-wing license to a commercial helicopter license? And that you can do it in as short as 30 flight days, or even possibly faster? Well, I finally got to do my flight test on day 29 of my helicopter license conversion, and because Foothills Helicopter Training Academy prepped me so well, I was able to pass the ground brief and actual flying part of the test without too much difficulty. It honestly just felt like another day of flying. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to film it, but that wasn't such a big deal because we did everything that I had been doing in my previous videos, but in this case, all in one flight. We did navigation, diversions, landing and confines, auto rotations, and so on. Everything came together and I passed my flight test. I then did one more flight on day 30 of my 30-day challenge, which included a 1.1 hour solo to complete my license.
So anyway, I can't believe it. About a month and a half later, and I have my helicopter license, and it's absolutely amazing.
Thank you all for watching this series, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.